what really fuels that drive. The push to build something lasting, find that security. We're all kind of looking for those insights, right? That edge, trying to grasp the core principles of success.
Okay, let's dive in. We're shifting gears today, moving away from the usual headlines.
Yeah.
For this deep dive, we're heading into the super high-speed world of MotoGP champ Marc Márquez.
And it's fascinating, isn't it? Because beyond the noise and the shiny trophies, there's this whole complex journey happening underneath.
Totally.
Our main source here is a really surprisingly open YouTube podcast interview with Márquez himself. So it's a direct look into those key moments, the tough choices, and, the mindset that got him there.
Exactly. And our mission, it's not just about the racing thrills. It's more about taking apart the reality behind that champion image.
Right.
We're going to dig into the sacrifices, personal, financial, that built the foundation, how vital good advice was, and that relentless mindset you need for the long haul.
Think of it like finding a blueprint. Yeah, a blueprint for building a career and handling the rewards, whatever field you're in.
And that journey kicked off incredibly early. Marc was on a bike at just 4 years old.
4? I mean, that's not just starting young. That points to a real deep passion right from the get-go.
Absolutely. And it wasn't casual.
No way. The family poured a lot into his racing, making, significant financial adjustments, like family holidays. They just didn't happen often.
Yeah, he mentioned that.
And notice, it wasn't just saving money. It was like they were clearly prioritizing Marc's dream above other things. For anyone listening, that might look like, say, investing in a course instead of a new gadget, aligning your resources with those bigger goals.
And it's interesting, they started with motocross off-road, not asphalt racing straight away.
Right. Why was that?
Well, it wasn't maybe the ultimate dream, but it was cheaper, more accessible financially.
Practical.
Totally. A strategic move based on what they had. It makes you think, doesn't it? Starting out, are you willing to make those less glamorous choices just to keep moving?
And his dad, huge role. Working all week, then boom, entire weekend's gone, taking Marc to circuits.
Dedication.
Seriously. And that first bike, almost certainly secondhand, just shows the financial reality they were dealing with.
Yeah, it highlights that resourcefulness you often need early on.
Yeah.
It's not always about the best gear, but about making the most of what you've got.
Finding workarounds.
Exactly. And the commitment went beyond just money. At 8 years old, he had to choose bikes or football.
Big choice for an 8-year-old.
Right. He picked the bikes. That shows focus very early on. Knowing where your passion really is.
Yeah.
That's vital if you're going to stick with something.
And even later, when he wanted a super motard bike for specific training, they got creative.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of buying one, he trained on his mother's scooter.
No way.
Oh.
On a scooter.
Yep. Talk about making do. It just keeps coming back. That theme of, delaying gratification, finding clever solutions when cash is tight.
So going from those early scooter days to MotoGP obviously needed more than just family help.
For sure.
Márquez mentions the Catalan Federation set up this cup kind of to scout young talent. And for not a huge fee, it covered a lot of the early race costs.
Oh, interesting. Like an incubator.
Sort of, yeah. That kind of early support structure can be absolutely massive. Take some pressure off the families.
But here's where it gets really interesting for me. He specifically talks about these 2 local brothers, the Rojas brothers. They stepped in when he was about 9, just saw his potential and wanted to help out a local kid who might not have made it otherwise because of money.
Wow, that's huge.
He really stresses how lucky he felt finding those early backers who weren't looking for an immediate payback. That kind of mentorship, that belief from others, it can be a game changer. Definitely.
A reminder that sometimes support pops up in unexpected places.
So he moves up the ranks, gets into the 125cc class. That's like Moto3 today, right? Kind of the entry point to the pro leagues.
Exactly. Before Moto2 and then the big one, MotoGP.
So you'd think, okay, now the money starts rolling in.
You would think.
Yeah.
But Marc said, no, the main focus then was just getting the best bike possible.
Yeah.
The understanding was the big money that was likely coming later in MotoGP.
So a long-term game plan.
Very strategic. Those early pro stages are often about investing in your potential, getting experience, not necessarily the immediate paycheck.
And it's pretty stark. He wins the Moto3 World Championship like between 15 and 17.
Yeah.
And says he earned very little during that time. Minimal earnings.
Wow. That could be a real shock for young athletes, I bet. Even hitting major milestones early doesn't always mean instant wealth.
Right. The money often scales with the level, the viewership, the global stage.
It wasn't really until he jumped to Moto 2, around 18, that's the step right below MotoGP, that he started seeing, as he put it, some hard cash.
Okay, so the financial tide starts to turn there.
Yeah, as he got closer to the absolute peak, where the visibility and the stakes just shoot way up.
Okay, so he's starting to earn properly, things are getting more serious. How did he handle the money side?
Well, initially, his parents basically trusted his manager, Emilio Alzamora, with everything.
Right, which makes sense early on. You need someone you trust when you're in new territory.
But then, as things got bigger, more complex financially, he realized he needed more specific expertise.
Smart move.
Yeah, he made that strategic call to bring in a lawyer and, crucially, a separate accountant.
Okay, dividing duties.
Exactly. It's a key step in professional growth, right? Knowing your limits and getting experts for things outside your main skill set. Like, for anyone listening, think about your own career. Where could specialist advice, even informal, help you level up?
That first big bonus, though, after moving to MotoGP, gets a win over €1 million as a rookie.
Can you imagine? It's just life-altering money straight out of the gate.
And it's interesting he flags it was as a rookie, maybe ties into that idea of bigger bonuses if the base salary is lower initially.
Could be. But he also learned a pretty quick lesson.
Which was?
That headline number.
Right.
Not what lands in your bank account. Taxes, manager fees, they take a big chunk.
Ah, the reality check.
A very common, often eye-opening moment for anyone seeing a sudden income jump. You got to understand the net, not just the gross.
So what did he do with that first $1 million? His lawyer's first piece of advice.
Keep it in the bank.
Conservative.
Yeah, pretty standard advice right after a big windfall.
Yeah.
Gives you time to think, plan, avoid doing anything impulsive.
Makes sense.
But eventually, as the money grew and things got more complicated, he set up what's called a family office.
Okay, what's that exactly?
Think of it like a dedicated team managing everything, investments, maybe estate planning, even charity stuff. It's that next level of financial organization you often see with high net worth folks.
And is he like micromanaging it?
Apparently not the day-to-day stuff. He delegates that to the office but stays in the loop, especially on bigger, riskier decisions.
So trust, but verify on the big calls.
Pretty much. It speaks to delegation, trusting your team, but still keeping an eye on the major moves.
And where did he put the money? What investments?
Mostly real estate, seems like. A house near Madrid, another house, and some storage back in his hometown, Cervera.
Solid, tangible assets.
Yeah, often seen as stable, long-term stuff. He's also got stakes in businesses, hotels, restaurants, diversifying a bit, maybe looking for income streams and growth there too.
Anything he specifically avoided?
Cryptocurrencies. He mentioned he hasn't gone into crypto.
Interesting. Suggests maybe a more cautious, traditional approach to investing, sticking with what's established.
I think it's that way. Now, with all this success, all this money, what about his spending? How does he live?
Yeah, good question. Lifestyle inflation.
He calls himself an ahorrador, which in Spanish is kind of stronger than just saver. It implies being deliberately frugal, consistently prioritizing saving.
Wow, so grounded.
Yeah, it's pretty revealing. Big wealth doesn't automatically mean big spending for him.
He says his day-to-day costs are low, focused on routine, home life, no constant splashing out.
Right, that consistency, even as his income grew, seems key.
What about cars? Surely some fancy cars.
He says he's only owned 2 incredible cars. And get this, he sold a Porsche Turbo because he felt awkward driving it.
Really? Self-conscious?
Yeah. I mean, relatable maybe? Feeling a bit weird with something that shouts, "I've made it."
Huh. Maybe. So what does he drive now? Or did?
He had an Audi RS6, a high-performance estate car, though he mentioned in the chat he just sold that too. But yeah, the Porsche story, it kind of humanizes him. Values over pure bling.
So where does the money go, personally?
Mostly stuff directly linked to training vans, to haul gear, bikes for practice, and vacations are limited, like 2 proper ones a year.
So investing back into the career, mostly.
Seems like it. Prioritizing things that support his performance over just endless leisure spending.
He also said he prefers just hanging out with friends, simple settings, over super fancy trips.
Yeah, that grounded thing again. Enjoyment comes from connection, experiences, not just pure luxury.
He does use a private jet for European races, though.
Right, but he framed that as almost a necessity. The race schedule is brutal, back-to-back weekends across Europe. Minimizing travel time, maximizing recovery, it becomes a tool for staying competitive.
Strategic travel, not just luxury travel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another interesting detail, the race bikes. He doesn't own them.
Oh, right. They belong to the team.
Yeah, supplied and maintained by the team.
Yeah.
Just highlights how different pro motorsports is. The tools of the trade aren't necessarily personal assets.
Okay, let's talk about some big career choices. That move from the factory Honda team, where he'd won everything, to Gresini Ducati. That involved a big pay cut, right?
Huge. Why do that when you're Marc Márquez?
His reason? He needed a competitive bike. After his big injuries, he wanted to prove he could still win, still compete at the very top.
So opportunity over paycheck.
Exactly. Willing to take a financial hit in the short term for the chance to perform and rebuild his dominance. It's a long-term investment in his own story, his legacy.
And keeps coming back to motivation, staying competitive, that adrenaline buzz of racing. That's what drives him, more than the money itself.
That intrinsic drive. Gotta have it at that level.
Absolutely. And he also mentions repeatedly how important having good people around him has been.
Yeah, that theme runs through the whole conversation. Building that strong support network personally, professionally, seems crucial.
Even his approach to tipping was kind of interesting.
How so?
He said he always tips, but he also asks where the money actually goes.
Oh, like to the staff directly.
Yeah, shows a bit of consideration, wanting to understand the impact, even in small ways.
Right. Now, there was that fun segment, Where Do You Blow Your Money? What came out there?
Well, biggest spending was still work stuff, training, travel.
Okay, consistent.
Leisure travel, relatively modest, maybe 20,000 hours a year.
Yeah.
And savings. He reckons he saves about 70% of his net salary.
70%. That is incredibly disciplined.
Tells you a lot about his mindset towards wealth management. He also mentioned he prefers picking up the tab when out with friends.
Generous streak there.
Yeah. And favorite fictional serial killer, Dexter.
Ah, okay. Bit of random trivia.
And his first big buy with his own salary, a van for training.
Of course. Back to the career focus. These little details, they paint a picture beyond just the racer.
Totally. And they asked him, how much money would you give to win the next title?
Yeah.
His answer was perfect. He said he's already given it by taking the pay cut to join a team where he thinks he can win.
Boom. That sums up the competitive spirit, doesn't it? Calculated sacrifice for the ultimate prize.
Exactly. Viewing the pay cut as an investment in winning.
They also threw a quick financial quiz at him in the interview. How'd he do?
Pretty well, actually. They asked about diversification. He knew it meant spreading investments across different types to lower risk.
Good.
Paying abroad with a card, knew it was better to pay in a local currency. And he even guessed the cost of a motorcycle inspection in Catalonia. Pretty much spot on.
Nice. So even though he delegates, he's got a decent grasp of the basics.
Seems like it,
Wow.
which probably helps him have informed conversations with his advisors.
And his number one tip, the main takeaway piece of advice he offered.
Seek out advice from people who really know their stuff in areas where you don't. Finance, professional things, whatever.
That's solid gold advice for anyone, really.
Absolutely. Knowing when you need help and trusting experts. Crucial for navigating anything complex.
So as we wrap this up, thinking about Marc Márquez, his journey, it wasn't just raw talent on a bike, was it?
Not at all. It was built on, huge early sacrifices from his family, smart financial moves guided by advisors he trusted,
A focus on the long game career-wise, not just quick cash.
and, surprisingly, a really grounded way of handling wealth, even at his level of success.
Yeah, the aha moments for me are definitely that realization early success doesn't always equal instant money. And how vital it is to bring in experts for things like finance as life gets more complex.
And that constant need to adapt, make strategic choices, take calculated risks, especially in such a high-stakes world.
So for everyone listening, maybe take a second. How do these ideas land with you? Your own goals, career, finances, whatever you're chasing?
Yeah, think about actively seeking out expert advice where you need it, prioritizing those long-term goals, even if it means some short-term adjustments.
And just understanding the realities, often unseen, behind what looks like easy success.
Definitely.
So here's a final thought to chew on. What sacrifices, big or small, might be needed in your own life to hit your biggest goals? And maybe more importantly, who would be on your trusted team? The mentors, the advisors, the experts to guide you through the good times and, inevitably, the tough spots along the way.